I tried recording this video the other day and it just turned out to be a hot mess when it came to editing, so I'm just going to redo it completely and a little bit more calmly this time. Today I'm going to be talking about the HasbroPulse Star Wars Fan First live stream. Hello FIGGIE fiends and collectors, this is me, Daniel East 1000, and today we're going to be talking about some of the reveals from the Fan First Friday. This was a live stream, like I said, where the Hasbro creative team, or HasbroPulse creative team, I don't even know what the hell HasbroPulse really is. It's kind of like a wasted thing for anyone who lives outside the US, pretty irrelevant, but they did this live stream and I thought, oh, you know what? This might actually be worth some of my time, so I sat down, got ready for it. They've kind of been hyping it for a couple of days, and I thought, you know what, they might actually have something to reveal. It's going to be a nice little whet of the appetite, ready for May the 4th. Can I say that, given that Disney Plus has tried trademarking it? I haven't put the hashtag, so we should be fine. So straight off the bat, the two presenters spent the majority of this live stream waffling absolute twaddle, and sprinkled throughout the live stream were just circle jerking around products, the child merchandise, which, to be perfectly honest, I'm sick of seeing. I love how it's got people who wouldn't necessarily be into Star Wars somewhat more into it. It's brought a different kind of demographic into being somewhat interested in Star Wars. The merchandising has just got absolutely ridiculous. I think the Black Series figure, from pictures that I've seen of it, could have been better, but I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it when I get it. But everything else, it has just kind of got really old hat really quick. Do we need a Monopoly version for the child? I don't even really understand the concept of doing a Monopoly purely based on one small aspect of the Mandalorian TV series. I thought the whole fun of Monopoly was the pre-warm-up to the game where you chose your pieces, and it's like an argument as who's going to be the car or who's going to be the wrench. Is that Cluedo? I don't know. But you know what I mean? You had an argument as to what piece you were going to play with. This is kind of like, do you want to be Baby Yoda with the cup? Do you want to be Baby Yoda in the pram? It's like, what's the point? Where's the fun in that? You're all playing as Baby Yoda. Monopoly is a game of arguments, and you're wrong if you think otherwise. But this is obviously aimed at kids, and I'm being a little bit pedantic here, but it's just, to me, it's like wasted opportunity. A Mandalorian Monopoly would have been fine. Do we need that? I mean, answer on a postcard, people, but that one's definitely not for me. But they just seem to keep, at every turn and every instant, they'd announce something that's kind of like, okay, alright, is there any more with that? Nope, it's another child item. It's the fact that they kept saying to us, oh, these are available to pre-order now. There's still some left. It's like, well, obviously, because not everyone is going to want one character, and you've definitely overproduced it for people who are not just Star Wars fans, but people who just like the memes of Baby Yoda, which is fine, but this is Fan First Friday, and as a fan, I know about Baby Yoda. I don't need to be constantly reminded. I'm waffling and spending way too much time on that point, but let's move swiftly on into the actual reveals. And first and foremost, looking at the main thing that I've been collecting, Star Wars The Black Series, which I absolutely love. I love the line. I love what they've been doing with it. So first and foremost, we're getting a Stormtrooper, which is a new sculpt. Okay, that's fine. Great for troop building. I like that it's more based off of, I want to say, Rogue One and The Mandalorian, although I would have liked to have seen, if it was based off of The Mandalorian, a more grubbier wash on it, to be more of like a remnant Stormtrooper. That's just such an easy repaint they could do. But nonetheless, we're getting another Stormtrooper, but this time it is completely new, which is a thumbs up. That's what Black Series is meant to be. The only thing is, I don't know if many people have picked up on this, it seems like it's got butterfly joints, which is pretty damn awesome. I like that. But then it's got ball jointed elbows, which the original Black Series Stormtrooper, that had double hinged elbows, which is obviously more articulation. Then the knees on this new one are ball jointed, and Hasbro are dubbing this as an improvement on the original. I mean, I'll wait to see and get it in hand, see if it's anything that they're cracking it up to be, but I could say fair play to the ball jointed elbows, But the ball jointed knees, I don't know why Hasbro has such a fascination with those now and incorporating them into Black Series, given that the staple was double hinged. But I guess we've now got to go along with it. We'll see how it looks more than anything, because with troopers like this, it should work fine because the cut where the hinge is, so long as that looks flush and so long as it looks natural, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But to me, I do feel like it's a massive misstep. So that's really my thoughts on the Stormtrooper. I liked it, although I feel like they could have just done the helmet and plonked that onto a regular Stormtrooper body, then that would have diversified your ranks a little bit. Maybe included a different blaster to make it more of a remnant Stormtrooper from The Mandalorian, or to make it more of a Rogue One trooper. So after that, they then revealed that they were doing a clone trooper. And I was sat there rubbing my hands like, yes. Are they going to announce a Clone Wars 501st clone with the Ahsoka markings? As that's a pretty relevant thing for now. And it's something that people are really wanting, and you could tell from the comments. And I was sat there thinking, are they going to announce it? And no. A Camino clone trooper, which, don't get me wrong, I am hyped about. I like that. I do think Hasbro could step up their clone game a little bit, because they already have the sculpts, but for some reason, unbeknownst to me and anyone else, they've decided to resculpt it. It's a good sculpt, but again, the articulation, ball jointed elbows, and by the looks of things, ball jointed knees. This is another case with the Stormtrooper. I'm going to have to see it in person, but they've already got a perfectly fine sculpt. If they wanted to just use the helmet, incorporate that into the previous existing figures they had, I'd have no qualms about that. That'd be like, oh great, okay, it's a bit of a kit bash and retool. But this is what's really getting me under the skin about doing these slight changes to articulation. At the very beginning of when the first ever wave of Black Series came out, Hasbro put their foot down and said, right, we're not going to do any repaints or retools unless it's absolutely necessary. Some of these just do not feel necessary to me, and it's kind of like, well, why do we need a retool? If something's not broken, why try and fix it? Or if something needs a slight improvement, just slightly improve it. So to me, both of these reveals are fine and not as noticeable if they released it with a group of figures that were going to be in a wave with them, and I'd be like, okay, I'd kind of like pick and choose which one I like, you know, when I see them. Or even just a simple little announcement, or even just a name drop. That's what I really don't seem to get with Hasbro. They don't seem to want to dare to make an announcement or pin down a character name in any of their live streams. They have to actually have a physical product image to say, look, we're doing this. And that's what's disappointing to me, because even if they just made a name drop, that would have been enough for me. We're like, okay, that's coming. I've got something to look forward to. And that would have been even more understandable given the times that we're in with this whole lockdown situation. However, the choices could have been better selected given the current media we've got out. We've got Mandalorian, so it would have made sense for that Stormtrooper to be in the Remnant Stormtrooper colouring. We've got Clone Wars, which is extremely recent, and they didn't particularly acknowledge in the live stream at all, which is extremely concerning. But hey ho, they could have done that Clone Trooper in the 501st with Ahsoka markings, and that would have made so much more sense than the one that we got revealed. And I think that's what's annoying. They're not looking at things which are current, which are from shows and media that are out now and have got people's appetite whet for products that they're prepared to just shed a lot of money out for, myself included, and are instead focusing their efforts on promoting the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, which is all well and good, but it's not the thing that people are talking about now in the Star Wars community. Given we've just had Rise of Skywalker, and yes, I know people have varying opinions and thoughts on that film, but there's still stuff that could be made from that. There's Clone Wars out, and there's plenty of characters and things, new things, that you could make for that people want. You can also use some sculpts from that and just do simple repaints. And then you've also got The Mandalorian, and there's plenty of characters from that show, other than the child, that people want. And so we come into the Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary reveals, and what have they announced? The fan poll choice. Honestly, I am hyped about, but I do feel like that poll was an absolute fix on all fronts of all the sites hosting it, and I'm not blaming the sites for doing it. I don't really know who to blame, but every time I looked on them posts, people were voting for unique characters from Empire Strikes Back. Stuff like Will Rohud, which, yeah, I can understand why Hasbro would kind of say no to that one. But regardless, Lobot, which isn't too far from the realms of a possibility, FX7 or the medical droid, Ugnaught, stuff like that. But instead, for some reason, Luke Skywalker in Dagobah gear was the one that got picked, or to me at least, it seems like Hasbro were just like, yeah, we're choosing that one because it's easier, and we've started incorporating multi-packs. And that's exactly what they've done with this. But they were always going to do this, Luke, at some point. It was like a given, so it made no real sense as to why people were voting for it, and I didn't see anyone really vote for it. But regardless, this is the one that Hasbro's decided, or we, if I've missed the memo, decide to vote for. Both are completely new figures, and the Yoda comes with additional head sculpt, which is really cool. It adds a bit more bang to your book with that set, and I do kind of really want this set. But as a fan poll thing, and a thing that I keep seeing being mentioned by a lot of people while the live stream was airing, was it's another Luke. And this one does serve a purpose because it's celebrating the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back. But at the end of the day, it's another Luke. And we've had, I think in the past few months, at least 3 Lukes now. This is going to be the 4th one. For me, the main Luke Skywalker I really want is the astral projection Luke Skywalker from Last Jedi. I'm still waiting on that to be announced or revealed. I guess that's good luck on me with that. But we've got this coming. It's fine. I like it, but as a fan vote one, a little bit bewildering to me. I don't want to knock on this one too much, but again, for some reason Hasbro are using ball jointed knees, which is beyond me, and I'm really cautious as to what articulation that Yoda's going to have. We'll see when that pack comes out. Moving swiftly on, although I do think that was probably the best reveal that they did out of not even handful of reveals they made that were worthwhile. We also got shown some exclusives. These are Amazon exclusives, although Amazon US, so that's dubious as to whether or not we'll be seeing them. Fingers crossed we do, because one of them at least I am actually interested in, and it's more of an accessory piece, although it's cool that they've put it on a vintage card back. The Han Solo in Carbonite, which originally came with the San Diego Comic-Con Boba Fett. So it's nice that they've taken something that was previously exclusive and shouldn't have really been an exclusive, and produced it for people to get their hands on again. It feels like a missed opportunity in that they could have done this as another big figure pack where they included the Carbonite block and Han Solo as how he appears during the battle at the Sarlacc pit. I know that wouldn't have fit on a vintage card, but I feel like that would have been more of a sensible choice as a pack-in in a standard card. But regardless, it comes with a stand, which I feel like I'm pretty sure the original came with, that came packed with the Boba Fett. Could be wrong on that, but Hasbro were making out that that was like a big new thing, even though it probably isn't. And I think that's the thing that really annoyed me most as well, mentioning that, because they were making out that that's Stormtrooper and other stuff. And the Luke as well. They were making out that all these products were revolutionary. It's like, no, you've done it before. You did a 3/4-inch version of that Luke that could do a handstand. It was just so cringy to watch. It's like just giving themselves a big pat on the back, and us fans are sat there like, is this a fan live stream or what? Because the majority of people commenting were just commenting like, when are we going to actually get to some reveals? So just to wrap up, I believe Black Series 6-inch figures, one of the last things they revealed as well was the Forlom and Zuckuss pack, and we've seen this before in Vintage Collection many moons ago, where they recoloured the Forlom and Zuckuss to be in their original Kenner colour schemes. They put them on vintage cards and they gave the name swaps. So originally when the Kenner figures came out, they had their names swapped. So Forlom was Zuckuss, Zuckuss was Forlom, but it created confusion for years. And it's kind of a fun thing that Hasbro did for that vintage collection, but they're basically copying that now and doing it in 6-inch, which is cool. I like it, I like the recolours, but it's more of one of those that you would want to keep carded. And if I could get my hands on it, because I didn't get the original 3/4-inch vintage one, I'd probably be inclined to get this one. And that's a cool exclusive for the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, and feels like it actually makes sense, because they're two relatively obscure characters and they've got a bit of history to them. So I'll give Hasbro a little bit of credit for that one. I almost completely forgot about the carbonised Black Series Darth Vader. I mean, I really like the carbonised line, but somehow they've just managed to make it incredibly vanilla And that was it in terms of 6-inch Black Series. In terms of Vintage Collection, if you told me after, you know, when Vintage Collection way back in, was it 2014, 2015, got cancelled, and you said to me, look, Dan, it's been cancelled now, but they're going to bring it back. I know that would get you hyped, but really it's going to absolutely suck. I'd think you were crazy. Because how can you mess up a line as fantastic as Vintage Collection by bringing it back? It's like, it's a line that is almost impossible to screw up this badly, and somehow Hasbro has. And that's due to the sheer fact that they've decided to reduce wave sizes, character choices, just a whole slew of things. It feels like a line that is barely worth collecting, almost to the point it feels like Hasbro are trying to put a massive nail in the coffin. It makes you wonder what the designers for these Vintage Collection briefings are discussing, because the choices of characters they're doing are just, while they are somewhat wanted, and I feel like this speaks for not just Vintage Collection but Black Series as well, it feels like it's missing the variety that Star Wars actually provides. Unique, colourful characters, aliens, villains, things, vehicles, stuff which we all know and love, and Hasbro decides just to go for the run-of-the-mill characters like another Luke. Do you not realise what Star Wars media is currently out at the moment? I said this, I'm saying it again. We've just had Rise of Skywalker, we've just had Mandalorian, and we've currently got Clone Wars. Clone Wars is a show that is near and dear to most of our hearts because it was a thing that was about for Star Wars fans. When there were no films, Clone Wars was there for us. It was that piece of media that gave us our Star Wars fix every week. Sure, we had comics, and Hasbro did figures based off of the comics. I'd love to see them do comic packs again, be it 3 for 4-inch or 6-inch. Bring it back, because they would sell, especially with the current Marvel run. But it seems like Hasbro are just not looking at what made the figure lines so successful. And what's ironic is they were boasting about this timeline thing or history thing they're going to have on their HasbroPulse website. As they were mentioning that, I couldn't, because they're so well and good doing that, but actually look at it yourselves and know how completely hypocritical you're sounding, because we fans, most of us who collect, have a good idea as to the history of these figures and stuff. We've got other sites that are probably doing an even better job at it than you guys are. So maybe don't waste your time looking at the past and focus on the future and the things that are keeping Star Wars alive and relevant right now. By all means, look back at the past, do characters and figures of things that people want, but just make it somewhat relevant and appease to the whole variety of Star Wars fans that they are, rather than just the OT collectors. Obviously you can't make absolutely everything that everyone wants, but at least put some variety in all your lines and put some damn care in it as well. Black Series is a great line, but it's now falling in the same trap that Vintage Collection has completely fell into. I hate saying this, it's kind of sucked a little bit of the fun and the spontaneity that the Star Wars figures used to provide. That's really why I've made this video, because it's all well and good these fan sites like applauding Hasbro for some of the things they make, because they do make great stuff, but it's just tragic to see when they're not focusing on the whole breadth of the fandom. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the very few reveals that Hasbro made the other day. I mean, I really thought with this presentation they did yesterday, they were going to pull out all the stops. I felt like Toy Fair, of which I covered in one of my previous videos, they didn't really pull out any stops for that. Now, I might have been a little bit too harsh then, because in reality they'd only just bought the Star Wars license back again, so they could have been like sworn to secrecy with stuff. But having had this come along, I just think they've become lazy, and I think that's the whole point of this video. I feel really sorry if I'm ranting in this video and my thoughts aren't as cohesive, although they feel a bit more cohesive than the one I filmed the other day. It was just exhausting to watch, and it just felt like a massive waste of time. I don't know if you guys watched it. If you did, let me know in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. But anyways, this is me, Daniel 1000, signing out. Thank you very much for watching.